The name a game console is given shapes its identity. The name may exude power, influence, personality, and even failure. As an expert on this field, I've conducted extensive research on how a console's name has affected its sales and reputation. According to my data, it appears that approximately 100% of all consoles given the name Wii U were doomed to fail. I would have thunk that. The most basic console names consist of a company name like the Atari Video Computer System and the Nintendo Entertainment System, or a brand name such as PlayStation and Xbox. These rather simple names by themselves don't express much character or personality, rather they sound powerful in due part to their legacy. Hearing these names is as recognizable as Coca-Cola, Nike, and the common cold. Of course, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither were these companies' reputations. While their initial successes aren't completely dependent on their name, initial impressions may depend on it. Going back to PlayStation, it's the perfect name to draw in an audience. A station that is made for playing games. Xbox, it's way too cool to be in the dictionary. Nintendo Family Computer, Famicom for short, sounds pretty cool, but back in 1983, the American market would have had none of that. You see, the video game market in North America crashed and burned as a result of too many consoles, the rise of personal computers, not to mention the unregulated release of shovelware games that outnumber the good ones. On the other side in the world in Japan, Nintendo released the Famicom where it would receive much praise. But if Nintendo were to release the Famicom overseas and have it succeed, one of the important aspects had to be changed. The name. They changed it to Nintendo Entertainment System, changed the design, and packaged it with a light gun and a robot so it appeared as a toy and not a video game console. The name change worked wonders as Nintendo made America realize, oh video games are actually pretty cool and fun again. Other times, a name may change a specific region if the market there likes it more than the original one. Here in the land of the free and the home of the brave, we love our confusing measurement systems, the Book of Genesis, and the name Sega Genesis. To me, this was the right call. Genesis not only sounds cooler than the Mega Drive, but it's much more fitting. The name Genesis symbolizes the beginning of Sega's empire in the 90s, with an excellent marketing campaign to boot.
What Nintendo?
Sometimes, to grab the attention of consumers, the name may have to reference a function or gimmick that the console has. An obvious example would be the Nintendo DS, DS referencing the dual screens. As we all know from the movies, more screens is the future and is super cool, as is the name DS. Xbox 360. The 360 referencing the degrees in a circle, a shape that implies that the console provides not just games, but a complete hub for entertainment. The same is also implied with this ass name. My favorite console name in this category has to be the Nintendo Switch. At any time, you could switch from home console to portable console, and vice versa. It's perfect, like bread and butter. However, sometimes taking creative liberties with names is kind of fun. It's like making a peanut butter jelly sandwich, but one day you decide to add some goldfish and gummy worms to the mix.
You could really taste the diabetes.
Game console names can get as pretty weird as that sandwich. Sometimes it pays off, other times it sounds dumb. For such an iconic device in pop culture, have you ever thought how strange Game Boy sounds? It broke the mold of game systems having names that sounded like a machine. Game Boy makes me feel like it has a soul. Atari tried to replicate this by naming their next consoles the Atari Lynx and the Atari Jaguar. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. Atari naming their system after the world's most ferocious felines is a clear attempt to sound intimidating in the midst of the bloodiest console wars in gaming history while they were slowly losing relevance. It's safe to say that their bark is worse than their bite. That's what cats are like, right? Sony's console names are pretty bland for the most part, with one exception, the PlayStation Vita. You'd think based on their patterns of home consoles that they would call their successor to the PlayStation Portable the PSP2 or something like that, but they decided to give it the name Vita. Vita is Latin for the word life. It's hilariously ironic because the first word you think of when you think of the PlayStation Vita is dead. Nintendo has consistently remained the oddball when naming their consoles, however. Trial and error is what they do best. The GameCube, based on its name and appearance compared to its competition, was given the kiddie console stigma. But in retrospect, the name and system itself are dope as hell, even if it really isn't a cube. The Wii is by far the strangest of them all. It has the benefit of sounding inviting, and it's quite fun to say. How could anyone be sick of hearing it? The astonishing success of the Wii made Nintendo a bit overzealous, though, for their next console was called the Wii U. Rag on how dumb the Xbox One sounds, but at least it was salvageable after its initial fiasco. The Wii U, based on its name alone, made the system dead on arrival. The fact that it had great games is irrelevant. Millions of people thought it was an accessory for a console who has seen better days. It didn't help that Nintendo used similar names for the console redesigns of the past, such as the Game Boy Advance SP and the Nintendo DSi. Wii U doesn't sound like the next generation. It sounded like Sega CD or Sega 32X, and we all know how that went. While a console's success is rarely dependent on a name, it is a very important decision that very few people take into consideration on how tough and stressful it can be. Whenever you think of any game system, the name always leaves a lasting impression on how you feel about the console itself, whether you realize it or not. What are your favorite and least favorite console names? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Now before you go, let me know how much you're willing to bet on what the new Xbox is going to be called. Place your bets, everyone!